Hi, I'm Lena and welcome to my series Reading Like a BookTuber, where I read favorite books or books that I've bought on the recommendation of a specific BookTuber. I've done this in the past with some of my BookTube friends, but it's time to branch out and read like more BookTubers. I am definitely not the first BookTuber who is going on this journey, who is being inspired by other BookTubers to read certain books. One of the first BookTubers I saw do this is Elle from BooksandLala, who makes a whole video every year where she reads the favorite books of BookTubers. So I thought I would start with Elle with BooksandLala for the first episode. I've selected a selection of books that is both her favorite books or books that I picked up on her recommendation. Alright, I had to grab the books, but two books I have physically. First one is one that I heard Elle talk about I think only a few weeks ago and it sounded so interesting. That is an essay collection. It came from the closet, Queer Reflections of Horror, and this is just a collection of essays I think where horror authors talk about their favorite horror films and how that inspired them. I love books about books and essays about books, so I think I will really love this. One of Kayla's favorite fantasy is The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is one I haven't read yet. I think this came up in one of her favorites video and I've been really in the mood for fantasy lately, so I think I will love this. And then I have four other books. Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano, which I think is one of Kayla's favorite series. Then Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson was one book I heard her talk about that it was something that she kept on thinking about after reading it, so that sounded really captivating. The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, which is a thriller. I don't usually read thrillers, but I really like the idea of them. I do read like gothic stuff, so I think it's pretty similar. I just think thrillers have like that very specific way of building a plot. I have read it and liked it, I just don't gravitate towards it. I mean, I'm making this series as well to just really get me out of my comfort zone, so you can see that in the pics as well. And the other one that I think is one of Kayla's favorite series, I will read the first one of course, is Every Heart a Doorway. So I have these two physically, Nothing to See Here on my Kindle, and the other one I will listen to on audio. I am a big audiobook listener. It's one of my favorite ways, or maybe my favorite way to consume a book, because I get a little bit fidgety while reading, so I love to just do an activity while I'm listening to something. So I'm hoping to finish these 6 books in the next like 10 days. I've already started 2 of them, so we can talk about the one that I am furthest in. Okay, so on my Kindle, which I just gave new stickers, which how adorable. I started Nothing to See Here.
Nothing to See Here is about these two women. They originally met in school. One of them did the other one a favor, and it really set them onto this strange path with their friendship and what they each expect out of it.
And I'm already really captivated by the writing. Although I do have one pet peeve with this book, and that is that the chapters are super long, and I really don't like that. We have different timelines in this book, and I think it plays really well with how you're going to judge the characters in the present. We have 2 friends who correspond together, and one of them invites the other for a great job opportunity. And we see them when they were both in like a fancy private school. I think that happened there is really reflective of how you're going to feel about what the characters are doing and why one is doing the other a favor. Let's see how far I'm actually in of this book. I'm only 10% in of the book. I know that at some point in this book children are going to combust, which sounds so creepy and eerie and disgusting, but it could also be funny maybe. The tone of the book doesn't really give me horror vibes. It gives me very much something in between literary fiction and just contemporary fiction, so I don't know really what to expect from the rest of this book. Also started listening to The Writing Retreat. The Writing Retreat I think I'm liking more so far than this one, but I'm also farther in. I think I've listened to about 1/3 of that book. It feels a little bit reminiscent of Yellowface by Kwang, which I read like 3 weeks ago. We have an author who is invited to go on this writing retreat, and they go to this very gothic house with a very famous writer, and she's of course mysterious. It's clear that she has some secrets, that she has some motives that we don't know about yet. She is very demanding of the writers who come there, and she wants a certain amount of pages a day that feels basically impossible to the writers. They have to come up with whole new ideas, and our main character, what I'm hoping for is that she's going to be an unreliable narrator, because I think if that is the case, then this book is going to be so interesting, because the whole book about writers it's not my favorite, but I think it's a little bit overdone in this book as well, where it doesn't feel very new, unless things start to happen later in the book. I feel like if she's going to be that unreliable narrator, then I think the book is going to give me more than I think it will right now. I am enjoying the characters and their interaction because it's very violent, it's very gothic. There's so much potential for things to go wrong, and of course it is a thriller. So I guess someone is going to like die or go missing at some point, I guess. I hope so, because this book does need a little bit more. I've read Stephen King. My issue with Stephen King was that it was so slow in the beginning and that there was no darkness or horror, and that I was just really bored because that is not what I wanted from the book. And right now it just reads like a contemporary fiction, which is fine. It has a lot of those classic gothic elements, which I always really love, but I usually love them in a historical setting, not really in a contemporary setting. But I'm going to let this book surprise me maybe. Kayla did say that it was very weird in a way that, what did she... I will leave a clip of what Kayla said about the book here.
My favorite thriller was The Writing Retreat. This, I don't even know how to pitch correctly because I feel like I put it in the same category as some other thrillers that just get completely unhinged and ridiculous. And it is that, but it's not weird ridiculous. It's just kind of like stupid ridiculous.
I'm excited to keep on listening to that one, and I will come back to you when I finished one of those or when I've started another one. evening I finished the writing retreat, and what a wild ride. I forgot how intense thrillers are. I don't know how much I enjoyed it because it's almost too much for me, like all the things that are just scary and thrilling, just uncomfortable. It's hard to describe because I don't really know how to review a thriller well, especially in the last part. I felt so uncomfortable with the whole situation and with everything that was happening, and I felt, I think, the fear of the character quite strongly. So while I was listening to it, I was kind of longing for a fussy romance. I mean, as far as thrillers go and as especially characters go, I also love the queer panic in this book. It has a lot of things that I really enjoyed, like character-wise, plot-wise, atmosphere-wise. I think looking at the thrillers that Kayla really loves, I think this was definitely the best pick for me personally. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, which is a great first thing for me with the thriller. It's not my genre. I think I did kind of confirm that for myself because I do enjoy the more fuzzy things a little bit more than the crime things. I guess it's just not really me. Maybe I'm just a little bit too sensitive to those kind of things for me to really enjoy it. But I think this was definitely a solid one. It was well written. I don't really have any specific comments on it. I think Kayla was very much right in saying that it is weird ridiculous, because it did get ridiculous towards the ending in an enjoyable way, in an entertaining way. I think if you are someone who really does enjoy crime elements in their books, then I would definitely recommend this because it had so many good elements. I also started listening to The Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I was planning to read this physically, and I think I will switch later, but the other books were not yet available for me to listen to, so that is why I listened to this one. I listened to the first chapter and I'm loving the writing so far, so I'm feeling very positive about that one. And I also was just in the mood for fantasy, so that is great. I will tell you what it is about when I've read a little bit more and can give you a more concise synopsis. But for now I would like to finish Nothing to See Here first, which I think I'm still enjoying. The character descriptions do feel a little unrealistic at some points. The dialogue between the two women does feel very flat, but I think maybe that is intentional in the way the secrets are hidden and in the way that we don't know everything about the characters yet. So I think there's more behind it than I can see right now. We did get a little bit of an explanation on what is going on with these children, and I'm so curious to get into the action of it all. I'm really looking forward to that. I want to be weirded out. I want to be creeped out. I think I love creepy stuff, but maybe not crime stuff. And this sounds more like creepy stuff. So I'm all in with this book. Gonna sit down right now and read that. Good morning, it's the next day and I finished Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. What can I say about this book? Weird is definitely the right word. This was a weird book. The way the more fantasy element, I would just call it, in this book is handled, I really enjoyed. Because it was not what I expected it would be. It was way more natural. It felt like a very natural and logical element in this book, which I thought was kind of clever. Unexpected, clever. That is kind of what I would call this book. Unexpected and clever. I even teared up a few times while I was reading it in bed last night, because the relationship the main character has with the children that she takes care of, like the children that combust, I thought it was really, really beautiful, and it really was supposed to be. I think it's the main force of this book. The weirdness of the children not fitting in and maybe not even being a good person. There are a few instances, especially when they meet, when you really doubt whether the children, but also the adults, are good people and some are bad people, a little bit more obvious than the others. But I kind of like the morally grey vibe of this book. I think my only negative of this book is that the dialogue and their inner monologue of the character felt a bit off sometimes. I didn't really love it. I didn't love the tone all the time. Sometimes there were a few phrases that just felt unnatural. Sometimes the main character, even though she's in her late 20s, she kind of talked like a teenage boy. So I think that is my only really commentary on this book. It's definitely a short book where the ending doesn't feel as built up and satisfying maybe as you would have with a longer novel, but I never really mind that. But I guess that could bother some people. Overall, I'm going to give this a 4-star. It was a very easy read. I can see how it can be very memorable because I think especially the children were really well written. They were given such layered personalities, which I feel like especially in books that are not written for children is quite a unique thing, because of course the creepy child in a horror thriller book is quite common, but they don't usually have like a very deep and layered character. I also read the first 100 pages of Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Lynn.
In my number 8th position is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Lynn. It follows a young woman named Seanan, and her mother has been exiled to the moon, and essentially she has a goal to get her mother out of exile. It leads her down lots of different paths. She experiences tons of different things, and my favorite thing is how many roles she plays throughout the story.
This seems like the kind of book that I could really enjoy. It really sounds like my cup of tea in general. I'm not super in love with it so far, but it does have a lot of potential if I look at other things that I've loved. Also, I'm loving a good tassel on my bookmark. So one thing I'm enjoying in this book is that the events are quite fast paced, which I think can be a little bit of a downfall with these kind of books, that it's too slow. But this has a good pacing. A few events have already happened. We start out literally with our main character, who is the daughter of the Moon Goddess, and the Moon Goddess has gotten her immortality by stealing something that wasn't hers, or that is what she is suspected of. Then our main character discovers that her mother has hidden her as her daughter and that no one knows she exists, so she has to leave. And then we follow her through her trying to make her way in life. I don't really want to say much more. I usually really like historical fiction or fantasy that is centered around a female character that kind of has to find her way, that is not necessarily very tied to class, but just tries different things, is being thrown into different circumstances. This book does feel a little bit YA so far. I don't know if it's actually YA because I do think the main character, she's young. I think she's in her teens. Oh, it has a map. I didn't see that yet. I will show you the map. So I think we are in the Celestial Kingdom, which I really like the concept of that. I think I definitely need to read more of this one to really tell you my opinion, because I am expecting that this will be an action-packed book, looking at how many events we've already had in the first 100 pages. As you can see, I have quite a bit to go. I think I'm also going to dip in and out of the essays while I'm reading this, and I'll let you know my thoughts a little bit more concisely about the Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I am halfway through Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I think I'm chapter 20, so around halfway through. This has definitely picked up for me. I'm really enjoying most of this book. I am really loving the characters in this book. We have two, I think, like side characters we have met throughout this novel, whom I'm really enjoying, especially in relation to our main character. I really love the potential for romance and how that is written. It reminds me of a lot of other things that I love. The more action-packed scenes, I think, are the points in this book where my intrigue kind of lowers. There was one action scene that I really enjoy, but I think the build up towards the action is not my favorite. Having said that, that's very much a me thing. I love more slow, character-based, fairies in the woods kind of fantasy versus more war political fantasies. So it makes a lot of sense that the more character, dialogue parts of this book are more my favorite. But there was, I think if you've read this book, then you know probably what I'm talking about, which was my favorite action scene. And I really did love that because there was so much angst in this action. There's construction outside, but it's not stopping, so I'm gonna keep on talking. I apologize. I am still listening to the audiobook, and today I think I'm going to start the essays, because in a few days the other audiobooks are in, so I can listen to those. I'm filming another vlog in between because I needed something to upload this week. This vlog will go up a week later than I had thought, but I might finish my diamond painting while listening to a good chunk of this book, because it is that kind of book that once you're listening, there's always something happening that you want to know how it's going to get resolved. There are always these little explosions throughout the book that you just want to see what happens. While falling asleep last night, I kind of stopped when there was a resolve, because I knew if I'm gonna keep on listening, there's gonna come something else and I cannot fall asleep. Having a good time with this. It's a 4-star prediction so far, but I'm really excited to start the essays. morning. It is Sunday. I have a bit of a busy day. I've had a busy week because boy started his new job and then he got the flu. So basically all house stuff, cat stuff, everything is on me. So today I need to go out, need to do some grocery shopping, return some packages, clean the bathroom, basically a lot of very boring adulting today. But yesterday I did not do a lot of adulting and I finished Daughter of the Moon Goddess, or I've been saying The Daughter, but it's Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and I ended up really loving this. I gave it, I think, a 4-star. I definitely want to continue with a duology because this is a finished duology, so I really want to read the second one. I was in the bookstore and I had about 100 pages of this left and I was considering buying the second one, but that one was a small paperback and I would like to have something matching. And I was so dumb. I read the description on the back and of course it spoiled the entire ending of this book. That was really, really sad. It's okay, it's okay. I still really enjoyed it. I am not someone who minds spoilers incredibly. I really read for the experience. I'm not much of a plot reader. I didn't cry out loud. I really enjoyed the pacing. I enjoyed how plot heavy it was. I think there were some plot twisty bits that I didn't love as much, maybe because it didn't really feel very new, very original. I felt like, oh, I've seen something like this in another book. But this setting was just so gorgeous, and it's weird to say that the setting that you cannot see is gorgeous, but I can just feel and experience all the colors and the scents in this book, which I just really, really loved. And even though I don't think this would make a good film, this would make amazing art, and I'm sure there's a lot of fan art which I'm really going to enjoy and look at. Always one of my favorite things of reading fantasy. Gonna see all the fan art at the end. But yes, I gave this a 4-star. The writing was very lyrical, beautiful, so maybe not for everyone, but definitely for me. I like lyrical writing. Not always, but I liked it in this. It really made the world come to life, and I think there is a lot of things to explore with the characters, not in a way that I want to keep on reading because I want certain things to be resolved, because I think this could also have been a beautiful standalone. I read the whole description now of the second book and I'm really excited to read it. I usually don't wait very long with continuing series, so I probably will do that later this year. This was a really great reading experience. I did also read the first 2 essays of It Came from the Closet, Queer Reflections on Horror.
We've got It Came from the Closet, Queer Reflections on Horror, which was just such a wonderful time. This gets a 4.25 to be really specific, because I think that's actually how the stories average out.
These 2 essays were, let's see, about The Exorcist and about Jennifer's Body. So those are the films that they're about. I mainly liked the second one more. The first one I gave 3 stars. I really didn't like the writing of that essay. The fourth one is by the same author who wrote In the Dream House, which is on my TBR. I haven't read it yet. Carmen Maria Machado, which I thought was so beautifully written, and I really liked how she talked about being queer as something that is fluent, and I really liked the balance in that. It felt so vulnerable in almost a dangerous way, which I think is beautiful if you write a very personal essay, if you're able to do that. The first one about The Exorcist I gave 3 stars. This one I gave 4 stars. I like how quote-unquote readable these essays are, which means that I just have a great time reading that and it doesn't require a massive amount of effort. Right now I am somehow currently reading The Second Sex. It's not going well, not because I don't like it, but because it's such an effort. So I love that this just feels a bit more natural, a bit more easy to read. And then for the audiobook I started Finlay, Donovan is Killing It.
As to Finlay, Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. This was my introduction to lighter, cozy mysteries and kind of changed the trajectory of a lot of my reading. I enjoyed it so much, and I feel like it's getting a little overhyped now. As in, I know a lot of people pick it up and maybe they're expecting a different type of, it's really just fun, ridiculous, silly, and wacky.
And this starts out with a woman who, well, her life has gone to shit, I think, in her own words. There's a lot of banter, a lot of humor, which I'm enjoying. So we follow a woman in the morning, we follow Finlay, and she tries to get her kids ready for the day, and then she calls her husband, or now her ex-husband, who cheated on her, and he is basically a bag of dicks. While I felt enraged for Finlay, I also felt uncomfortable with the way that she was treating her children, because the things she was doing, if a babysitter would do that, they would get fired. I think it's fun that you can already play with the fact that you feel a lot of rage towards her ex-husband, but I could also see how she would not be the hero of this story. She is a mystery writer and she has a meeting with her editor, and I think at some point someone overhears her and she ends up actually being part of a real life murder. I know that is how the book has been pitched a lot to me, so I like the tone, I like the banter, but I've only listened to 2 chapters, so we'll see how that goes. And then I have only 1 book left to listen to, and then we will conclude this vlog. But first, for now, I need to do my chores for the day, which I'm so excited for. It is the end of Monday and I just finished Finlay, Donovan is Killing It, and I think it's going to end on a 3.5 star for me. I definitely enjoyed reading this. I had a good time with this. I feel like the intrigue is quite high during the whole of the novel. The writing is also fine. I really liked the setup of the characters, especially of our main characters. I thought the side characters maybe missed some nuance, but I really liked Finlay in the end. I remember that I said that I didn't enjoy her much and that I found her very unlikable, but that really changed throughout the novel. She became a very layered, nuanced character. There is some just craziness in this book that can sometimes feel unrealistic, but I think that part was done really well, because we have all these events that in the real world it wouldn't work, but in the setting of this novel it works without making it seem incredibly crazy, without making it look like some people are getting away with really weird things, or that the main character just does everything and there are no consequences. So I enjoyed it, but it's not something that's super memorable to me. I don't think I will continue with the series, although at the end there was a little hint to the next book and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I've heard just bad things about the continuation of the series. Apparently it's definitely not as good as the first book. If I had given the first book a 5 star, I wouldn't really mind. Even though I want to know what happens, I don't think I will continue with the series. But because so many people I know have read it, and Kayla of course, I'm really happy to have read it. So now I kind of also know this within the mystery genre. I feel like I've gotten familiar with something that I didn't really know, where you have a very contemporary feel. It's almost like you step into a rom-com at the beginning, and the romance was very sexy in this book. I thought that was really well done. I think there's a lot of potential for it. But yeah, I think this is my lowest rating so far of this vlog. I think so. Also read a few more essays of this one, and I gave one essay 5 stars. My Hand on the Glass, I think is the essay. I gave 5 stars. The thing that I love most, I really love films and I really like authors talking about films. I'm a nerd in that way, I really love that. But it's not even the thing I'm enjoying most in this book. I've also not seen all these classic horrors, which I really want to do now, even though these essays really go into details. I feel like I already know the plots of these films, but the things that I really love is the incredible vulnerability when talking about your identity and seeing yourself reflected in film. There was one essay, The Girl, the Well and the Ring, which I thought talked about some interesting topics concerning disability, which if you're newer on my channel, I have a chronic illness, so that kind of linked with me. But I just again really didn't enjoy the writing. The writing in this collection feels like very hit and miss. The qualities within the essays differ quite a lot from my point of view so far, but it means that I'm on page 60, which is not far in at all. I'll keep on reading this. Then the last book is Every Heart a Doorway, which is fantasy, and I'm really looking forward to that. Going to listen to that probably tonight.
I read the first book in the series, Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire, the month it came out in 2016. Right? I read it every January. I give it 5 stars every January.
It's Wednesday and I finished Every Heart a Doorway. It's so short that I didn't really feel like it was necessary to give a midway update. I find it really hard to review this book. I think the best way I can pitch this is Alice in Wonderland, but if Alice came to a school with a community where everyone had fallen down the rabbit hole. In different kind of rabbit holes, in different kind of ways, and the rabbit holes are doors. But it is a contemporary setting. So we follow our main character, as she has gone down a rabbit hole, gone through the door where she was part of the world of the Master of Death. Yeah, I think it's called that way. Look, I'm already forgetting the details. But then she goes to this school, and this school is for people to deal with what has happened. They have therapy group sessions as well, which I think is really cool. But the main theme is, I think, that everyone wants to go back to the world they went to, because some of them have lived there for years. Later in this book as well, we get a mystery part of it. I would say that this book is really short for the kind of thing that it is, but because it's such a big series, I can see how that would work. I'm not really sure what the audience is, because I thought, oh, I'm reading a YA, but then it got really gory and dark, which I personally really enjoyed, and that is where my intrigue kind of peaked. But I'm not sure, is this okay for like 13, 14-year-olds to read about? I am too out of touch to know those kind of things. I mean, maybe. I think I will continue with the series. I don't know how to rate this, so I thought we could do a Copal rating, which Copal I don't really use to rate, but I do use it to track my reading, so that if I do like a mid-year update or an end of the year update, that I have all the statistics. I also used them when I was reviewing my 30 books in 30 days in July. Okay, so you have Copal, which is created by G from Book Roast. You have all the letters that stand for a way to review the things. So C is characters. Characters, I would say, I have a lot of potential, but I can see how that would be more explored in the coming book. So I also really liked the different kind of queer representation in this book. So let's go for an 8. Atmosphere, really, really lovely. It reminded me of, gosh, this is the book that we read for the Hostess Book Club. I will leave a picture of it down here. Also reminded me a little bit of Gallant by V. Schwab, but that's more on the writing side, which, I mean, I vibed with that. So atmosphere, I'm also going to give an 8. Writing, it was very vague, very metaphor heavy, which I do not usually love in audiobook form, so I don't know if I would rate this differently if I had read it physically. But writing, I'm gonna give 6. Plot really picks up later in the book. I think it could have been distributed a little bit better, so let's give it a 7. Intrigue, again, really happened for me in the second half of the book, so let's give that another 7 too. Logic, I'm gonna give a 5, purely because I think when it comes to pure fantasy, which I feel like this is, you need a little bit more of explanation. When it's magical realism, I don't really care, that's like fine, but this really felt like a fantasy world. I don't really mind, but there is not a lot of logic in this world. And enjoyment, I'm gonna give another 8, because I did really enjoy listening to it, especially to the second half again. I think the first half was kind of, it was happening, but not that much. So let's see what kind of rating we are left with. We ended up with a 3.5 star, and I do think I will put it on Goodreads for 4 stars, because I have so much hope. I'm excited for the rest of the series. I gave Finlay Donovan a 3.5 and I wasn't super excited for the rest of the series. Let's give this a 4 star. And then I've also read a few more of these. I'm going through these quite slowly, but that's fine. I'm now almost halfway through. I've read part 1 and 2. And again, these essays are kind of rating wise all over the place for me, because I've given another 5 stars. Made me tear up at some point. I thought it was so beautiful, but also a few 3 stars. So I think this will end on a similar rating, like 4 star-ish. But I'll finish this and then I'll come back to you. Welcome to the last day of this vlog, and I just finished this essay collection. I won't lie, it was a bit much. It has 26 essays, so that is a lot for a collection, and they are all kind of about the same themes. So all of these essays are about one horror movie or horror franchise and how that influenced a writer and their experiences with being queer, or how they viewed queerness in that horror film. Again, like I said earlier in this vlog, I think it really differed for me which ones I liked more than the others. A few I really gave 5 stars and I really enjoyed, and those were mostly the very personal essays. I really enjoyed the essays in which I think the memoir part was quite big. The essays I liked a little bit less were way more academic, which I'm not necessarily looking for when I read these kind of essays. I just want the personal stories, the touching stories, which have somehow a lot more value for me. When you read 26 essays on the subject, I think what makes them different is the personal. So having those more academic points repeated a lot in one collection didn't have as much value for me personally. So I've rated every essay individually and it comes out at a 3.75. I will round it up to a 4, of course, for Goodreads. Also because I would like this to have a high rating on Goodreads so that a lot of people pick it up, because I do think it's very valuable. Maybe if you read it, it's more like a 1 essay a day kind of collection, and I of course read it faster than that, which I think did harm my enjoyment a little bit. If I had taken my time for the more academic essays, I may have enjoyed them more. Today I found actually an audiobook for it, which I couldn't find earlier, so that helped me kind of read the last 100 pages this morning. Overall, I had a really fun time with this vlog, and I also kind of feel like I know Kayla as a booktuber a bit better. What I have read, and of course I have picked the books up with knowing myself and knowing my own taste, but I definitely see a beautiful combination of thriller, crime and more social subjects in all of these books, I think. Almost all of them. And of course I kind of knew that, but I think if you watch a booktuber a lot, it's really fun to read their favorite books so that you get to know them through their books, through their favorite books, which I feel it kind of really works like that you get to know a person through reading their favorite books. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me any emoji in the comments down below. I would love to know that you're here. For now, I hope that you had fun watching this. I definitely had fun making this. You probably saw it in the thumbnail, but this is episode 1, so there will be more episodes coming. This is a bit of a second half of 2023 project for me. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a lovely, lovely day or evening. Doei!